Hi guys, welcome to another video with me and my mom. Today we will be doing inscribed angle measure.
We're going to be working on calculating the measures of inscribed angles and be using the properties of algebra and the definitions of the circle vocabulary in order to solve some problems. You'll see the walkthrough on 10.4 come out soon, but before we get to the walkthrough, let's go ahead and look at one of the formulas. And thank you to my daughter Alora for the very beautiful introduction. All right, let's zoom in. Make sure that you get your page of notes set up to take notes. That is, get your header and your left hand bar going, and you're going to put your title up here at the very top. Don't forget to write down the objectives that we had already stated at the beginning of the video. Make sure you do that now. Go ahead and pause the video and get that done. All right, welcome back. We've only got one formula to work through today for the inscribed angle measures, and the formula is this. In words, it says the measure of an inscribed angle is 1/2 the measure of its central angle. That is the central angle that also forms the arc that is formed by the inscribed angle. Let's take a quick look to see what this looks like. I'm going to draw a circle. Yes, I'm drawing by freehand. You're welcome to do that also. There's our point. Let's call it D. And then let's draw some sort of inscribed angle. Recall that an inscribed angle is going to be an angle whose vertex is on the circle, and the sides of this angle contain chords of the circle. That means that these are segments that intersect the circle at 2 points. One point is the vertex, and the other point is somewhere else on the circle. So something like that, that would be an inscribed angle. Let's go ahead and name those points there. There it is. So we have point D, which is the center of our circle, points R, G, and N on the circle, where angle RGN is an inscribed angle. So this reads the measure of an inscribed angle. So little m standing for measure. This is an angle, so I need the angle symbol. And now I'm going to write the name of the angle. Start at R, go toward the vertex G, then go toward the other side of the angle. So the measure of the inscribed angle RGN is equal to 1/2 times the measure of its central angle. That is, notice this right here. From the center to R, I could draw a segment. And from the center to N, I could draw another segment. This angle right here would be the central angle that is also creating this arc right here. And so the measure of that angle is the measure of the central angle that is related to the arc that is being created by that inscribed angle. And so this is our basic formula. The names are going to change depending on the setup, but this is the basis of what we can. All right, so let's talk about here how we would find, say, the measure of this arc. So if I wanted the measure of arc RN, that is the measure that's starting, the arc that's starting at R and is going to N, this arc right here, that measure, that is going to be equal to the measure of the central angle that creates it. That was reviewed in our last video. I'll put a link on screen for you in just a bit. There you go. So the measures of those two items are the same. The measure of that arc and the measure of that central angle that creates arc. So if we know one of the measures, either the measure of the inscribed angle or the measure of the central angle, we'll be able to find the other missing bits of information. So let's do a quick example so that we can see this in action with numbers. Let's assume that the measure of angle RGN is 36 degrees. And I'd like to know, what is the measure of the arc RN? All right, I'm going to zoom in a little tighter on this example here so that it's a little easier for you to see. There you go. Now, using the formula that we just discussed, we know that the measure of the arc is the same as the measure of the central angle, and that the measure of the inscribed angle is half of the measure of the central angle. So if I can figure out what the measure of the central angle is, I'll know exactly what the measure of the arc is. That's what I'm interested in. So let's go ahead and rewrite our formula so that we have it. Remember that we're replacing this with the name of whatever angle it is that we happen to have. So in this case, it's angle RGN. It could be some other letters of whatever angle that we have. So there's me writing the formula. I just copied it from here. Now I'm going to substitute what I know. What I know is that the measure of angle RGN is 36 degrees. So I'm going to replace all of this measure of angle RGN with 36 degrees. And everything else is exactly the same because I'm not making any sort of changes. All right, I have this really weird fraction thing going on. What's happening is I'm multiplying this fraction by whatever value this is. And yes, there's a lot of numbers and symbols there, but it represents a single number of value, whatever that number value happens to be. So really, I want to try to get rid of this fraction. How do we get rid of fractions in an equation? Multiply by the denominator. So if I multiply everything on this side by 2, and I'm using the square brackets just so that it looks a little different from the round brackets. Multiply everything by this side by 2, and I'm going to multiply everything on this side by 2. So 36 times 2 is 72. And over here on this side, the multiplication by 2 is going to cancel with that division of 2 that's sitting there, that 1/2. Those are going to cancel each other out, that and that. And it's going to leave me with just the measure of angle RDN. So now I know the measure of the central angle. Well, according to our comments on how we find the measures of inscribed arcs, those arcs that are created by angles, the measure of an arc is the same as the measure of the central angle that creates it. I now know the measure of the central angle, so I know the measure of the arc, which was the entire question that I was looking for. I can make this a little more complicated by throwing in some algebra. We'll see that in the walkthrough. I'll do a couple of items for you there, but this is the basics of what it is. Thanks so much for watching and joining us. We'll see you in the next video and in class. Have a good one.